Thank you, Honourable Chair, honourable members. Good morning, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Good morning.
I hope you got some sleep.
Nope.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. It's beyond my control. Okay, can I just recap? We've got a limited time available. So some of the questions that I'm going to put to you, I would appreciate just a yes or no answer, unless you want to elaborate here and there. I also just want to assure you that you have deposed to an affidavit, a sworn affidavit. It's part of the record. It would have, should have been read by everybody here today. And when it comes to the evaluation or assessment of the evidence, both written and oral, it will be taken into account. So to the extent that you might be or might have been concerned that you didn't get an opportunity to go through all the allegations that you make in your affidavit, they will be considered. And of course, there will still be questions from the honourable members. And to the extent that you refer to your affidavit and the annexures, I can't predict that, but you're obviously at liberty to do that. So the topics that we almost certainly won't get through, but there's a whole list, and I'm just referring you and the honourable committee to the index to your statement. There is criminal activity within PKTT, the slush funds, the secret service account, taxpayer funded trip to Japan for a friend in inverted commas of Khumalo, Mkonazi's alleged role in kidnap and torture. Commissioner Masemola is part of the problem, you allege. Allegations of state-sponsored hit squads at work in KZN. You question that adverse effect of Khumalo's conduct on the criminal intelligence, or crime intelligence, sorry. Mkonazi's, what you describe as lies to the Commission and Parliament. Mkonazi's secret business dealings, outlandish lies you allege by Nkabinde and Pashlani. The criminal syndicate against you, claims of infiltration by you of IPID and other organs of state, some miscellaneous matters. You question or ask the question and you answer the question, who is ultimately to blame for what you describe as mess we are in today, and how can the criminal justice system be fixed? What we want to focus on are really four big topics. General Mkonazi's statement on the 6th of July and the aftermath of that, the so-called slush fund, then IPID and SAPS infiltration as alleged, and the spyware grabbers issue, which actually has been addressed by quite a few witnesses. I think the last witness was Brigadier Shlungwane, who was the accounting officer at the time. So perhaps we shouldn't, unless you have anything to add there. So perhaps let me kick off with the alleged IPID infiltration and SAPS. Do you know who the current director of IPID is? Executive director, sorry.
No, Chairman.
Who is the last executive director of IPID that you interacted with?
Since 2018, I haven't interacted with any executive director of IPID, Chairman.
Have you recently, or put another way, when is the last time that you referred any complaints to IPID?
It was the complaint which I laid against General Pashlani in January or February 2016.
Yeah. And you haven't laid any complaint with IPID since?
That's correct.
Is it your evidence today under oath that you've had no contact or interaction with IPID since 2016?
No, Chairman. I had interactions with them until 2018.
Now, again, just for the record, you deal with that from paragraph 146 onwards. It's on page 50 through to page 60. Okay.
Correct.
And so what's your response shortly of allegations that you have infiltrated IPID?
Well, it's a blatant lie. I've not infiltrated IPID. What happened, Chairman, very simply, very shortly, was that I opened the docket against Pashlani in February 2016. For 10 months, IPID flatly refused to investigate that docket. And the reason they flatly refused to investigate it was because IPID was part of the state capture project at that stage. When McBride was reinstated after the Constitutional Court found his suspension unlawful, I immediately had a meeting with him and I said to him, I opened this docket 10 months ago. Nothing has been done about it. We have a corrupt acting commissioner of police. And over the next 2-3 months, we brought IPID up to speed with the investigation that we'd done in the previous 10 months when IPID refused to investigate. And then we left them to get on with it.
Now, one of the burning issues that has cropped up in our hearings has been the visit by you and members of IPID to the Sable Hills estate, the house of General Pashlani. In what capacity, firstly, did you visit the estate? I think it's a fact you did.
I visited the estate first time in February 2016. And I went there to look at a property
that's at paragraph 147.1 on page 51.
Yeah, I went to look at a property there. And I did that because I had information about the house that had been built. I've been on Google Earth and I had Google Earth history and I downloaded Google Earth history. And that's all contained within my statement, which I gave to IPID in February 2016. And I had the dates of the photographs under each.
Okay. But just to get to the point, you visited the estate with some members of IPID.
I did that in November 2016 after Robert McBride came back.
So under whose direction or authority did you visit the estate with IPID members?
So, Chairman, what happened was they asked me to show them what I knew. And I said to them, if you get the building plans.
Who's them?
The lead investigator is the late Mandla Mashlangu.
Yes, he subsequently was murdered.
He was murdered. In fact, they threatened to kill him and me at the same time. And that's in my evidence.
Okay, so let's just get back to Sable Estate.
So he said, we'd like to meet you at the estate. So we met just down there's like a spa shopping center or something over the street. So we met there and they had a single cab IPID vehicle. And I said, if we go with this, it means we're going to have to take 2 cars. And I've got an SUV. I said, why don't we go in my SUV and we can all sit in it? Because he wanted me to go and show him the house. And he asked me to go. And he said, you drive the car. I said, no, I'm not the IPID official, you're IPID official, you drive the car, and you show security your badge and whatnot. And then we went in, and then I showed them where the house.
So is that what happened? You went in your vehicle
We went in my vehicle.
because it was bigger,
Yes, but he drove.
and he drove the vehicle. And when you entered the gate of the estate, he showed to the to security, gate security, his
ID,
badge, his
yeah,
ID,
Yeah,
and you went in on that basis.
that's correct.
So the gatekeeper or the security person there would have assumed that you also part of the IPID contingent.
I don't know what the gatekeeper assumed. I didn't speak to him. But what happened was we then went to the estate manager's office. Now, because I've been involved in a lot of property development, I understand how it works. None of the IPID officials have ever been involved in property development. So they asked me to accompany them to the estate manager's office to obtain the drawings. And they asked the estate manager for the drawings of the house, because I said, if you get the drawings, we'll be able to get the exact square footage or square
Did
meter.
you take photographs of the house?
I already had those photographs from when I'd been there with the estate agent
So you'd been there previously,
in February 2016
and that was on your own
on my own.
with the estate agent, or did you
Correct.
meet the estate agent?
No, because you can't get into the estate. The estate agent took me in his car,
Yes.
and then I asked him to drive me around to see how the estate looks.
Yeah.
Of course, I was there for a reason. And I said, oh, that's a nice house. Let me have a look. And I took a picture.
Yeah.
And that's the picture that I used in my complaint.
Okay. And now, subsequently, you were charged.
Yes, the Mabula team unlawfully arrested us. And in fact, they charged the IPID members as well. And I think that's very well documented, because in fact, what happened was IPID went to court and obtained a court order to stop the counter investigation being carried out by the Mabula team. And they succeeded. They got an order to that effect. And that put a stop to the counter investigation. But in the meantime, I wasn't only arrested and charged, I was detained again. My assistant, she was my corporate counsel, Sarah Trent. She was arrested and detained for 2 nights in appalling conditions.
Yeah.
They took her cell phone. One of the members of the Northwest team flew to Israel with her cell phone because she wouldn't give them the PIN code. They flew to Israel with the cell phone, and they broke the cell phone open to download the contents of the cell phone, which was all unlawful.
How do you know the official flew to Israel?
Because they had to prove the contents, how they got the contents of the phone. And they submitted affidavit, what they call a chain of evidence affidavit, in the alleged, you see, when you get...
Because we need to close off on this topic.
Okay.
So when you get a charge sheet, you ask for further particulars, or
Correct.
your counsel would,
Correct.
and your counsel would then be entitled
Yeah.
for the state to demonstrate the chain of evidence, to be
Correct.
satisfied that it's genuine, authentic, or whatever.
And not only that, they submitted the same documentation to the Zondo Commission.
Yeah.
Because they tried to show the Zondo Commission that they hadn't done
So
anything
did
wrong.
that document demonstrate that they actually went to Israel?
Correct.
Who in Israel, or which other organization in Israel why Israel?
Because there's a company in Israel which works for Mossad, which is the secret, service of Israel. And that company specializes in cracking cell phones. So they're able to open a cell phone if you refuse to
Okay,
give.
so at that stage, when they decided to go to Israel and to Mossad, who would have been the executive there? Who would have authorized that trip, assuming it was authorized?
I'm assuming it was General Mabula. He was the head of this team, this Northwest team.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't General Mabula, it would have been General Pashlani.
Okay. So these messages were retrieved. And so just to conclude, I'm sure you'll get some questions on this aspect later. What happened to the case that was brought against you?
I think after 7 or 8 months, after repeated appearances in court, it was struck from the roll. But not only was it struck from the roll, IPID launched a High Court application to have the Mabula team investigation declared unlawful. And the court issued an order to that effect, that the Mabula team were no longer allowed to be involved in that investigation.
You make it, sorry, Mr. McBride. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, I think their questions were asked about that, because that was a 342A application. When there's a delay, then you can ask.
That is correct.
Yeah, but the matter was just struck from the roll, of course. It's still alive, potentially. It can still be re-enrolled. You weren't acquitted or found not guilty.
It was struck from the roll, and 10 years later, nothing.
Yes, so let's not get too technical, but that's the point. It's still possible that it may be reinstated anyway. Yes, of course, the prospects after some, 7 years or so later, that it hasn't been reinstituted. The other aspect relating to IPID I want to raise with you is that 147.9. There's a reference there to 200,000 rand that of your own money, you say, that was contributed towards the fees of his lawyers.
That's correct.
He was represented by
Adams and Adams.
Alan Suzman Foundation.
No, Adams and Adams.
Oh, Adams and Adams.
Yes.
They represented the amicus in that case.
I
think McBride was represented by.
No, Helen Suzman Foundation were amicus, and they were represented by
I think
Weber Wenzel.
All right.
So McBride was represented by Adams and Adams, and the reason I made the donation was because, having opened the docket in 2016 in February, by the middle of the year, nothing had happened. No investigation was taking place. And I was satisfied that the country's police service was being run by a corrupt commissioner of police.
Okay, so would Mr. McBride have been aware of your contribution? Was the contribution to him personally, or did it go to the lawyers representing him?
I paid Adams and Adams. I didn't discuss it with Mr. McBride.
Because,
I paid the VAT on it as well. It was
yes, if my memory serves, he wasn't aware of a personal contribution made by you to his legal fees.
No.
Okay. All right. So what, in brief, what was your relationship with Mr. McBride? Did you, in effect, without being officially designated, become part of IPID investigating people like General Pashlani?
The only work we did in terms of investigation was between February 2016 and the period when IPID took a decision to carry on with the investigation, because from February 2016 till November 2016, no work had been done on the investigation whatsoever. So once they decided to carry on with the investigation, we spent the next 4 to 6 weeks to bring them up to speed, and then we stood back and left them to get on with it.
Okay. Now, and subsequent to that, you say or certainly in recent years, you haven't had any contact with IPID, interacted with IPID?
No dealings whatsoever. There might have been 1 or 2 cases where we've dealt with regional offices of IPID, for example, in Mpumalanga, There was a case there where we found that there was allegations of a police official receiving bribes, but it wasn't the chief of police, it was a captain. So we helped the complainant open a case with ARPID there, but that would have been 3 or 4 years ago. And I wasn't involved in that. It was one of my staff.
So in relation to General Paslani, have you, subsequent to 2016, because the allegation is that you targeted General Paslani deliberately, you and Mr. McBride, the purpose being that McBride and you presumably wanted McBride to become the National Commissioner of Police.
That's the narrative. That's a false narrative of both Paslani and Nkabindi.
Okay. So subsequent to McBride's tenure at IPID and your evidence that you, save for the 1 or 2 instances where you have referred complaints at provincial offices, were you involved in any of the investigations against General Paslani?
No. In fact, Chairman, if you look at page 52 of my statement, paragraph 147.12, I explain over the next 4 weeks, at the request of Mahlangu, that would be the late Mantle Mahlangu, I brought the task team up to date and then stood back and let them get on with it. During those 4 weeks, I took the task team and pointed out where evidence could be obtained from, which included assisting them identify the building contractor who built Paslani's house, paid with bags of cash taken from the boot of his car. I tape recorded that conversation with the contractor, where he explained in detail how a Checkers bag with 350,000 was taken out of the boot of the car.
Okay, so that's all recorded in your affidavit, and yes. I'm sure everyone has read it. But I just wanted to ask you have not subsequently been required or called upon as a witness in any of the matters. As you know, I think it's common cause. General Paslani was dismissed. There was an arbitration. He took it on review to the Labour Court. That was lost. He took the Labour Court decision on appeal to the Labour Appeal Court. Recently, that was also dismissed.
That's correct. It was dismissed.
Yes. So were you involved in any of those legal developments?
No, not at all.
Questions are asked given your as it were appetite to investigate corruption at high levels. Why have you not investigated Phala Phala? You've known about it, you've read about it. There's been lots of media attention given to that issue.
Chairman, the first I knew of Phala Phala was in June. I can't, 23 or 24, whenever an article surfaced in the media written by Arthur Fraser. And Arthur Fraser falsely alleged under oath that I had helped the then president, in fact, the current president of South Africa, to track down the people that allegedly stole money from his couch. But I never even knew about any money being stolen from the couch until I read about it in the media. And I subsequently managed to get from the journalist who wrote the story a copy of the affidavit, because Arthur Fraser, having made the affidavit, published it. So when I got a copy of that affidavit, I then went and opened a case at Rosebank, because he deposed that affidavit at Rosebank Police Station. So I then went and opened a perjury docket against Arthur Fraser at Rosebank Police Station. And once again, nothing has happened to that case.
All right. If we can just move to the allegations you make in relation to the PKTT
May I get the paragraph number?
in
62.
sorry, paragraph 62. In paragraph 62, you allege, or you say in your affidavit, during his testimony both at Matlanga and at the ad hoc committee of Parliament, Lieutenant General Kwenazi remained totally silent about the rampant criminal activity within the PKTT. In that regard, I've been anonymously supplied with the following copies of 4 sworn statements by Sergeant Mokoena, dated 16 September 2024, Captain, I don't know if it's Oor, dated 30 September 2024, Lieutenant Colonel Khumalo, dated 24 August 2024, and Constable Ndlovu, dated 9 October. And these affidavits are annexed. It's at pages 270, 272, 274, and 276. Do you want to highlight, again, it can be taken as read. Do you want to highlight one of those specific affidavits?
Well, there's 4 statements there, Chairman. I would say the most compelling statement is the statement of Lieutenant Colonel Khumalo, who admits to having received
Just the page reference?
page 274.
274, okay.
He admits to having received 10,000 rand from a person by the name of Plakis. And Plakis was the head of security at the university.
So all 4 of these affidavits relate to the PKTT Fort Hare, University of Fort Hare investigation.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And the person within University of Fort Hare,
Can continue.
the person within University of Fort Hare that the PKTT was liaising with, they had been instructed to liaise with this person, was a person by the name of Plak. And all of them admitted receiving gratification as defined in Act 12 of 2004. And in particular, the leader of this team, this small team, was this Lieutenant Colonel Khumalo, who admitted receiving 10,000 rand, allegedly for purchase of honey, because apparently Colonel Khumalo was selling honey. And Plakis bought 60 bottles, but he paid for 150 bottles of honey. And no honey was delivered to him. And in fact, the money wasn't refunded, which meant Colonel Khumalo received 10,000 rand gratification.
Okay, then can I just refer you to
And Plakis was subsequently arrested and charged. He, in fact, was the main suspect.
I think that's common knowledge. Can I just refer you to paragraph, it's section J of your affidavit, paragraph 96.
Section J. What's
Yeah.
the page number?
It's page 32. Allegations of state-sponsored heat squads at work in KZN. And then,
Page 32.
yeah, you say that that in the week following General Nkwanezi's media conference, Forensic for Justice were approached by an informer.
That's correct.
This informer made shocking allegations. As a result, the informer was interviewed over several days and a sworn statement taken from him. To protect the identity of this informer, I've redacted his sworn statement. I've also redacted the transcript of the main interview. You say unredacted versions will be made available to the Commission of Inquiry, and you attach the statement, and it's J638 to 634. So can you go to 638 and 6? Six 638, and it goes to 644.
Yes. I'm there.
Yeah. And there the deponent, whose name is redacted, says in paragraph 3, on 8 July 2025, following the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Lucky Mkhwanazi in a national media briefing on the 6th of July, I decided to call Mr. Paul O'Sullivan of Forensics for Justice. The reason I reached out to Mr. O'Sullivan was because I knew of Mr. O'Sullivan and his prior investigations into corrupt police officials. I'm sick of what I'm taking part in, and I desperately want to get out, and I'm fearful that if I leave on my own, I will be killed. To silence me because I know too much. And then in and around 2019, when I was around the age is deleted, I was approached by a tall black Zulu man who seemed to be in his early 70s, whom I called Baba Ndlovu, approached me. Ndlovu and Nkwanezi both reside in Pietermaritzburg. I was informed by Nkwanezi that Nkwanezi was looking for a bright young man whom he could train to be what was referred to as an arm of the police service. I understood this to mean that we would be trained to support services to the police. Paragraph 6, I, along with at least 40 other young black males, took part in rigorous training for approximately 7 months. We were told that we would not be paid for our time while training, but we were guaranteed work when the training was over. Paragraph 8, when the training was over, we were all given 50,000 rand in cash by Mr. Mthethwa and told to return home and await further instructions. A week or two after being back home, I received a phone call from Mthethwa. He told me to collect a package. Upon my arrival, I would meet some man. I never knew his name, but he knew who I was and what I looked like, and he handed me a further 50,000 rand cash, which was held together by an elastic band. A few weeks later, I received another 20,000 rand in cash in the same manner. In total, I received after the training was therefore 120,000 rand. Paragraph 9, in and around the end of 2019, early 2020, there was civil unrest in KwaDukuza, KZN, and I received a phone call from Mthethwa telling me to go to the same meeting spot. I was collected by prior arrangement by bus, and the driver was the same man who would hand me the cash every time. We were transported to a meeting spot near the Rainbow Chicken Farm in Hammersdale. By the time of our arrival, there were about 19 or 20 of us in the bus. We were all given suit bags with our names on it, with blue SAPS uniform inside them. The SAPS uniform didn't have any ranks on them and nor our names on the pocket, but they look exactly like blue SAPS uniforms. Later on, and in our time with the task team, our SAPS uniforms were given rank badges. None of us were actual police officers or SAPS members. Paragraph 10, the first mission in Tukuza was crowd control mission, where we were told to fire rubber bullets at a crowd of people that were protesting. Then I skip a few lines. It was made clear to me and the other members of the task team, our main purpose, according to Mkhwanazi, was to, quote, clean the streets, unquote. I later realized this meant we would be killing criminals instead of arresting them. Paragraph 11, in about mid-2022, there was a mission which I referred to as the West Boys drug bust. We were told that we would be required to do a quote-unquote drug bust. And when we arrived at the location, the so-called drug lab in Umlazi, a shootout ensued between us, who was described by him as an extrajudicial task team, real legitimate police officers and the suspects. It ended with at least 15 suspects being shot dead. Many times during our missions, no arrests were ever made of any suspects, and a lot of the time the suspect or civilians were shot in the back as if they were running away. We would often, quote unquote, shoot to kill. The next mission in paragraph 12, I'll speak about in around August 2024 in section 8, Umlazi. We were told by Mtetwa there was an abandoned house in section 8, Umlazi, where people were using the abandoned house for a drug syndicate and we needed to get rid of them. I understood this to mean they were dangerous and we needed to eliminate them. When we arrived, we split into two groups and went in kicking the doors front and back and immediately shot everyone inside. Paragraph 13, when we noticed that 6 teenagers had been shot and killed, we knew there would be trouble. Ndlovu phoned Mkhwanazi to come to the scene. Just before Mkhwanazi came to the scene, we were told by Ndlovu that some of us had to leave, and 9mm weapons with dead teenagers and some weapons were left next to their bodies. So it could be said that these kids shot at us. This is the second mission where kids were fatally shot, yet they were unarmed. And Mkhwanazi planted evidence or had evidence planted to cover up what had actually happened. I was not involved in the first incidents. It must have been one of the other groups. I also wish to mention that Mkhwanazi always arrived at these missions with other police officers to basically clean up the mess, quote unquote, which either meant that they would remove evidence of us, the task team, ever being there or planting evidence to change the narrative. The last sentence in that paragraph, none of us had firearm licenses for the weapons we were using, Wilson police uniform. Then lastly, paragraph 16, whilst working for the task team, I received 20,000 Rand in cash per month. Considering there were at least 3 or 4 groups or task teams, each receiving 20,000 Rand in cash. This would mean that the total cash payment made of all these members in the task team was between 1.2 million and 1.6 million per month. It seems to me there were 3 groups of 20 people, none of them cops. We were all promised that after we had been doing this work for 5 years, we would each receive 5 million Rand in cash. What is these allegations? Clearly very serious. What's happened to this? Has a case been opened? Is it being investigated? What's the status of these allegations?
Chairman, we supplied a copy of this. In fact, no, we supplied the original of this in terms of Section 27 of the NPA Act to IDAC. And we supplied a copy of this to a senior investigator who works for IPID and is based in KZN. And we have left them to get on with it. So we would have probably pursued it a bit further, but given the fact that I was being accused of having captured IPID and having captured the NPA and having run the country. We decided just to file these complaints and leave them to get on with it. So I don't know what's been done about it.
When is the last time that you made any follow-up or inquiries?
In August last year.
And this person who deposed to this affidavit came to you, approached you.
Yeah, we didn't know him from a bar of soap. In fact, we have a toll-free number. It's 0800 118 118. And that's the toll-free number for Forensics for Justice. And it's an unmanned phone, but people phone and leave messages. And he phoned there, and we've got a tape recording of that as well. And he phoned there and said that he wanted an urgent meeting. And then I spoke to him on the phone, and I tape recorded that as well. And in the tape recording, he said that he was involved in killing people, and it was getting to his conscience. And him and another person wanted to come and see me. So I met with him first, and the other person was supposed to see me afterwards, but the other person allegedly shot and killed himself the day before he was supposed to come and see me, which only left this person. So that's why I've redacted everything that can be used to identify his name.
Do you know where this person is or what the whereabouts, given?
Yes, we
that-
do. And we've passed that information on. So unredacted version of this is with IDAC, the original of it. And if you have a look, Chairman, there's a whole interview of 60 or 70 pages from page 644 right through to page 790. Is the transcript. It's a redacted transcript because some of the things he says in there clearly
of your interview.
Yes, and it was like a 4-hour interview over a long period of time. I think we stopped and then we carried on again.
And who was with you when you conducted the interview?
The person that was with me, that name has been redacted. One of my staff from Forensics for Justice and a person who I call Peter Piper, because I wanted somebody that wasn't involved with Forensics for Justice to be present.
Okay.
So I've just called that person Peter Piper, but that's not his real name.
Right.
And that person was present, and that person's a Zulu-speaking individual because the person we were interviewing spoke English quite well, actually, but he knew, the person that was with us knows about these areas in KZN, so he was able to ask questions about this and that and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Our time is really now limited. And to deal with the slush fund, the Secret Service account, which, as I mentioned, it's dealt with by you in the part which is headed the slush fund, the Secret Service account.
What's the paragraph number?
It's from paragraph 64 onwards.
Okay. So
And we've also heard some evidence. Obviously, the extent to which we accept it as evidence, corroborated and confirmed, of Mr. Shlingwani. But you make several allegations about General Mkunazi and his alleged conduct regarding the slush fund. You raise questions about it, about crime intelligence, involvement in operational functions, and so on, at paragraph 80.
Yeah. So, Chairman, during its testimony at the Madlanga Commission and at this ad hoc committee, General Mkunazi repeatedly talked about informers that were supplying him with information. Now, it's not the function of somebody that doesn't have security clearance to manage informers. And General Mkhwanazi had no security clearance. Plus, he wasn't working in crime intelligence. It's a function of crime intelligence to manage informers. And that is the purpose of the slush fund. The slush fund, actually, its real name is the Secret Service account. And that money is supposed to be used to pay the informers to get information pertaining to criminal activity. And then if the information is good and it results in arrests, the informers get paid. Now, what I couldn't understand is how General Mkhwanazi was able to claim at the Madlanga Commission and in Parliament that he was managing informers. And I have made the suggestion at paragraph 81, Chairman, that if the committee wants to get to the bottom of the root of all evil in the police, it needs to start with the slush fund. Because if they can stop the wanton theft of millions of rand, which is stolen in secret and spent in secret with zero accountability, and in fact, the loose strings around the purse of the slush fund results in inside factional battles within the police, because many senior police officials want to get their hands on these taxpayer funds. And it's a fact of life that in 2012-2013 financial year, the slush fund budget was 98 million rand a year. In the 13 years since then, it's grown to 600 million rand a year, which is a 500% increase. During the same period, Chairman, we've had inflation of 113%. So we have not seen a concomitant drop in serious crime. In fact, we've seen the opposite. We've seen crime increase in the last 13 years.
Okay, there's just another two topics I need to cover with you quickly. The one is the now infamous, notorious braai that you had at what used to be Kretsch's house. What was that gathering? Did you conspire there? Who was there? Did you conspire there to do anything, to frame anyone?
No, Chairman, I was
anyone?
in fact flying overseas. I was flying to Vienna on the night of that braai. And it was the end of the year. The people that are stated to be at the braai by Nkabindi and General Mokateri. So Cedric Nkabindi was not invited to the braai, but he turned up. The persons that were invited to the braai, and it was just an informal braai of 2 hours, was Robert McBride, General Sabir, who by that stage was no longer in the police. He was, I think, working for the Johannesburg City Council. And there were some of my staff there. And the late Mandla Mashlangu was there. And there was a journalist there, but the journalist was there to talk about a new book that she'd just published about Radovan Krejcir. And that's why we decided to have the braai at Radovan Krejcir's house, because she was launching the book that she'd written about Radovan Krejcir. And I asked the person who owned the house if we could have a braai there. And that's what we did.
And what did you discuss? Was it just an end of year braai? Was it just a social gathering, or did you meet for any particular purpose?
It was a 2-hour social gathering. And I was quite surprised to see the number of people that turned up, because from IPID, there were probably 6 or 7. I invited Mandla Mashlangu, the late Mandla Mashlangu, and I invited Robert McBride. I invited Matthew Sissoko, but he didn't come. And there were one or two others, but I can't remember their names now, plus Cedric and Kabindi. And actually, if things that happened afterwards hadn't have happened, I wouldn't have even remembered Cedric and Kabindi's name. He alleged that there were people there from AfriForum and the DA. There were nobody there from AfriForum, and there were nobody there from the DA. So all these things were fabricated. He also alleged...
Any journalists there?
Angelique Serrao. She made a book about, or she published a book then, that same week, about Radovan Krejcir. So, and she gave everybody a copy of the book. So that was now your house. You bought it from Krejcir. No, it wasn't my house.
Is it Krejcir's house?
No, it was never Radovan Krejcir's house. So I don't really know.
Okay.
You know, there's a whole fabrication that was Radovan Krejcir's house. It was never Radovan Krejcir's house. The house in question is owned by a company, and the owner of that company, I asked him, can we use the house? Radovan Krejcir used to live there.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, the July 6 press conference held by General Mkhwanazi, you deal with it from paragraph 91 onwards. Paragraph 91, on 1 July 2025, following the arrest and appearance in court, where 5 generals and 2 brigadiers, all from crime intelligence, based on complaints laid by myself and others pertaining to nepotistic corruption within crime intelligence, I caused my attorney to write a letter of demand to General Masemola demanding the suspension of these 7 crime intelligence people. Within hours, General Masemola responded to the letter of demand, fobbing me off with a tough response, thereby removing the urgency. When did you lay those complaints?
Chairman, I met with the Office for the Inspector General of Intelligence in January of 2025. And I supplied them, we carried out some research, and we were able to identify the company which had bought these properties. We received the tip-off. It's probably the same tip-off that the Honorable Fadi L. Adams and Honorable Carla Barnard received. And we also got it. We have a anonymous email address that we use. And we got this tip-off, and I decided to carry out some research. And I wrote to the Inspector General of Intelligence. They asked me for a meeting, and I handed over. We got copies of the.
So sorry, just repeat the dates. I just missed it.
It was in it's one of the annexes is my email to the Inspector General of Intelligence. I'm not quite sure which of them it is without looking at the annex list. In section H.
Where's 30?
It's page 294. So 294 of my submission is the email that I sent to the Inspector General of Intelligence. This was after the meeting, summarizing.
What's the date of that?
The email is the 16th of February, 2025, but we had the meeting in January. And he asked me to do further research, which I did, and I supplied him with that information. I then sent him an email on the 16th of February. He wrote back on the 3rd of March, and he said, "Thank you for this valuable information. We will be in KZN from 10 to 11th of March 2025. And after that, I had no further interaction with them. But I supplied them with all that information. And the most critical point that we discovered was the fact that the properties were purchased at the full asking price. In fact, they paid more than the asking price.
Okay. So if I can just move on from there, just back to the braai quickly. The person who was there from City of Johannesburg had also mentioned to you the procurement of spyware.
Never.
No?
Never.
By Sabia?
I never had any discussion with him. I don't have the ability to procure spyware, whatever.
No. I'm
spyware
not
is.
saying, I'm not putting that to you. I'm saying it had been mentioned to you.
No.
No. Okay. What was your relationship, if any, with Sabia?
My relationship with Sabia first came about in respect of Radovan Krejcir, who's a Czech fugitive. He was wanted in the Czech Republic. He was living here unlawfully. He entered the country on fake passports and he should have been deported, but he managed to play the game and stay here. And unfortunately.
So when was that, when was your last interaction with General Sabia?
So General Sabia then got dismissed from the DPCI. He took it to the Labour Court and he was later reinstated. And after he was reinstated, he became the Deputy National Commissioner, Detective Services. After he became Deputy National Commissioner, Detective Services, we probably had 4 or 5 meetings with him, maybe 6, to hand him copies of dockets which we had opened relating to corrupt police officials and corrupt prosecutors. And he then handed that to subordinates of his, and we then worked with those people, and those police officials were arrested, and so were the prosecutors, and they're currently on trial.
And when last was that?
That would have been 24, 25.
And subsequently, have you had any contact with General Sabia?
I have had contact with him because when this media release took place of General Mkhwanazi on 6th of July in last year, he made allegations about Shadrack Sabia. So I phoned him and I said, listen, what's going on there? Yeah. Are you involved in all this? What's going on? Of course, he denied everything. And I said to him, well, I hope you've got your version of events to put forward. And he assured me that he would be putting his events forward. It's been alleged that I'm his friend. I want to just place it on record that I don't know where he lives. I've never been to his house. I've never been to a restaurant for a meal with him. I've never had any dealings. The only time we ever had a meal together was the braai at the house in Bedford View in December 2016. I've had no other interactions with him other than work-related.
Okay. You have called for, sorry, let me just deal with this aspect quickly in the remaining few minutes I have left. You say that on the 5th of July, this is at paragraph 93, in the early hours of the morning.
Correct.
Someone dropped a brown envelope off at my office, which I saw when I arrived at 4:30.
Yep.
I was truly shocked by the contents, which included the following documents, which I felt to send to Masemola to share with the NDPP, the head of IDEC, and the president, as the documents allege a national scandal being perpetrated by General Masemola. Now, this is, why do you mention that this is just the day before the 6th of July, when
Yes,
the press announcement was made.
I was,
And in paragraph 92, you also allege that you received information that on the 3rd and 4th of July at the Police College in Pretoria, Generals Masemola and Mkhwanazi put the finishing touches to the presentation that General Mkhwanazi would use to shock the nation on the 6th.
that's correct, Chairman. Although it's in chronological order there, I only found out about that after the 6th of July. Because after the media conference of General Mkhwanazi, some of the journalists there, he apparently did a presentation on PowerPoint. And some of the journalists there said, "That's a nice presentation. Can we get a copy of it, please?" So he instructed his PR or spokesman or whatever you call it to supply it to the journalists. And when they supplied that presentation to the journalists, they did it on their computer by converting the PowerPoint presentation to PDF and then emailing it to the journalists. And one of the journalists, because I didn't know about this 6th of July conference until it actually happened. And one of the journalists phoned me and said, "This and this conference took place, blah, 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 blah. What can you comment?" I said, "Well, I haven't seen it. Can you send me something?" And he sent me this presentation. And when I got it, I was shocked. I read it and like, wow, you know, it's like 40 or 50 pages of presentation went up.
But you not mentioned specifically in the presentation.
I am. He doesn't mention my name, but he refers to a member of the public that called for the suspension.
So you inferred it was can only be referred
Can
to you.
only because he not only says a member of the public has called for the suspension, but he says the member of the public wants the National Commissioner to bypass the HR regulations of the police and just suspend these people. So clearly he was talking about me. But more importantly, and this is an important point, Chairman, this PDF file, we have software which can analyze documents and we can extract the metadata from the documents. So I decided to run a quick metadata check on this document that had been sent to me. As a result, I was able to identify the computer on which the PDF was created.
And the location where the computer is.
A head office computer. So a police head office computer. And we have supplied the information to the Madlanga Commission with a suggestion that they inquire from the police to find out who is using that computer. We've got the details on the user number because we extracted from the metadata. Okay.
Just lastly to round off, Chair. I think I did start 9-10 minutes past 10. You called for General Khumalo's suspension. Were you responsible for his arrest by IDAC?
No, in no way, shape, or form. I didn't even know he was being arrested. But when he was arrested, I thought, wow, you know, this is good. Now, I put the copy of the charge sheet in here. Charge sheets, once you've been arrested and charged, it's a public document. So I managed to get a copy of the charge sheet.
But the charge sheet, was that based on the...
Oh, sorry, I haven't put that charge sheet in there. I don't have that one. I couldn't
But
get
was it based on the information that was provided by Honorable Adams, MP?
Chairman, from what I can understand, Mr. Honorable Adams and Honorable Carla Barnard and Dishonorable Paul O'Sullivan all laid complaints in different directions, and they somehow merged. They found themselves together. I didn't lay a complaint with IDAC. I laid my complaint with the Office for the Inspector General of Intelligence because of the nature of the complaint which related to the Crime Intelligence Secret Service account. As far as I'm aware, Honorable Adams laid a complaint with the police. So I think these complaints all ended up with IDAC. And IDAC obviously investigated and chose to make the arrest. But I wasn't involved in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Perhaps I'll get another opportunity at the end. Maybe my colleague can use that opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Did you conclude, Advocate Arendse? Or must I give you 15 more minutes?
Chair, I would have obviously preferred more time. A lot of time, to be fair, was also taken up yesterday. Various points, a number of them valid, but didn't form part of the leading of evidence. But we interacted on it, so quite a few hours was spent on that, and would have preferred more time. But in the short time available, we've covered some of the topics that we wanted to cover.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can give you until past to raise any other important matter which you feel must be brought to our attention.
Chair, it's fine. We'll rest our case for the time being.
Okay, no, it's fine. If you are satisfied that you have done justice, then it's okay. Honorable James, are you ready?
Chair,
Are you ready?
Chair, we're not giving up our 15 minutes. We'll take it at the end.
Yeah.
We'll reserve our 15 minutes for the end.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready, Honorable James?
I think so. Yes, Chair.
Yeah. I'm allocating 15 minutes to alternates. And then 40 minutes to full members.